It happened on a Tuesday. Not the kind of day anything life-altering is supposed to happen. Just a regular, dull Tuesday. I had just stepped out of the bank, a coffee in one hand, phone in the other, when it buzzed. One message. From her. I've filed for divorce. You won't see me again. Contact my lawyer. Sign the papers. Goodbye. That's it. That was the whole message. No name, no explanation, no signature. Just cold, precise words that might as well have been carved in ice. At first, I laughed. A dry, confused chuckle that bubbled out of disbelief. A joke. A prank. But the more I stared at the message, the more the cold began to settle in my chest. I read it again. And again. Something inside me cracked. My wife, Emma, had been everything. High school sweethearts. 12 years together. 7 married. We had our routine, breakfast at the kitchen bar, goodnight kisses, grocery runs on Saturdays. She had her quirks, lists for everything, lavender candles in every room, never wore mismatched socks. I loved her. I thought she loved me. But that message, it was as final as a headstone. I called. No answer. I texted. Nothing. I drove home, thinking maybe she'd be there. Maybe this was some sort of misunderstanding, or something had happened and she needed help. I kept thinking maybe she'd open the door and burst into tears, run into my arms, tell me there had been a mistake. But when I pulled into the driveway, the house was empty. Her car was gone. Her closet, when I opened it, half empty. Our wedding photo, the one in the silver frame by the nightstand, was gone. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the smell. Faint. Subtle. Not hers. A cologne I didn't recognize lingering on her pillow. That was the moment everything I believed about my life started to unravel. And I couldn't stop shaking. I opened the drawer where we kept our important papers, passports, wills, insurance, and found a neatly folded note. Just my name on the front. Inside, something that would make my heart stop for a second time that day. The note in the drawer was short. Just 5 lines. Written in her handwriting, the loops of her L's and the way she dotted her I's with barely their dots. It read. I'm sorry. This isn't your fault. I needed to leave before I lost myself completely. Please don't try to find me. E. That was all. No mention of love. No mention of us. Just a quiet apology as if she were leaving a dinner party early, not ending our life together. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty side where she used to sleep, wondering how I missed this coming. Wondering if I had truly been that blind. I played back the last few months in my head like a badly cut movie reel, looking for clues, for signs, for anything. And slowly, they began to surface. Emma had always been organized, obsessively so. She had a calendar for everything. Birthdays. Doctor appointments. Even reminders to water the succulents she kept on the windowsill. But 3 months ago, I started noticing new appointments. Things she never mentioned. Vague ones, lunch, call, meeting. I'd asked her once, half joking, got a secret life I should know about. She'd smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, you know everything about me, Ben. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She worked in publishing, editing manuscripts for an indie firm downtown. Long hours, lots of reading. She started coming home later. Sometimes with takeout for one, saying she'd already eaten. Sometimes not at all, claiming she stayed at her sister Lauren's place after late meetings. But the thing was, Emma hated sleeping away from home. She said she could never relax without her lavender pillow spray and her own mattress. That's how I should have known. I didn't want to believe it. I think somewhere deep inside, I already did. But denial is a powerful drug. It whispers comfort. It tells you everything is fine. That you're imagining things. That the small shifts in routine, the way her kisses started to land on my cheek instead of my lips, the way she stopped laughing at my jokes, that it was just stress. Just work. Just life. We used to talk about everything. Politics. childhood trauma. Grocery store meltdowns. She told me about her fears, of being ordinary, of turning into her mother, of growing old without making an impact. I used to hold her hand and promise we'd figure it all out together. Then, bit by bit, the conversations shrank. She'd nod while scrolling through her phone. I'd eat dinner while she answered emails. We became two people sharing space, not a life. There was this one night, maybe 6 weeks before the text, that keeps playing in my head. We were watching a movie. Some romantic drama she'd picked. I remember a scene where the couple fights, but then one of them turns around and says, "I still choose you." Emma shifted in her seat. She looked at the screen, then at me. Her expression was blank. Then she got up to get water and never came back to finish the movie. At the time, I thought she just lost interest. But now I wonder if that moment hit too close to home. If she knew then what she was about to do. I'm not saying I was perfect. I got complacent. I worked too much. I assumed love was something you built once and then lived in like a house. I didn't realize it needed constant renovation. I didn't notice the cracks in the walls. The roof leaking. I thought we were safe. But love doesn't die in loud explosions. It dies in quiet ways. In late nights, unanswered questions, in drifting eye contact and distracted smiles. It dies when one person stops trying and the other pretends not to notice. And maybe, just maybe, I started noticing. I just didn't want to face it. The next morning, I called Lauren, Emma's sister. We weren't close, but I figured she might know something. She answered after a few rings, her voice cautious. "Ben. Hey. I'm sorry to call. Have you seen Emma?" There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. "No," she said finally. "I mean, not in a couple of weeks." I swallowed. Did she say anything? Anything at all? "I got this message, and she's gone, Lauren." Another silence. Longer this time. "She said she needed space," Lauren said carefully. "That she felt like she was drowning." She didn't go into details. I thought she was just overwhelmed. "She didn't tell me she was leaving you." "Yeah. Well. She did." I waited for her to offer comfort, or outrage, or even confusion. But there was just a quiet sigh. "I'm sorry, Ben." "Me too." I was sorry for a lot of things. The days that followed blurred. Her lawyer emailed me, some slick guy named Grayson Winters, with an office in the city and a signature that looked like he autographed baseballs. He sent over the documents. Divorce papers. Property division agreements. A spreadsheet of assets. Emma had itemized everything. Even the blender we got as a wedding gift from my uncle. I couldn't bring myself to sign. Not yet. I started rereading old texts. Old emails. Notes she'd left in my lunchbox years ago. "Miss you already. Can't wait to see you tonight. You make everything better." Where had that woman gone? Was she ever real? One night, I went into her home office, the one I rarely entered, and sat in her chair. Everything was clean. Neat. Her pen holder still full. A small notebook on the desk caught my eye. I opened it, heart racing. Most of it was work notes. Manuscript edits. Author names. But near the back was a page with a quote written across it in her handwriting. "Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave." It felt like she had underlined it with her whole life. There's this part of grief no one talks about, the part where you don't just mourn a person, but the version of yourself that existed with them. I didn't know who I was without her. I didn't know how to make coffee for one. How to walk past her favorite shelf at the bookstore. How to sleep on my side of the bed without expecting a warm body beside me. I started seeing her everywhere. In reflections. On the street. In a stranger's laugh. It was like my mind refused to believe she was truly gone. Like it hadn't gotten the memo. But the scent on the pillow hadn't lied. And neither had the silence. A week later, I finally called the number her lawyer gave me to schedule the signing. But the receptionist paused before transferring me and said, "You're not the first man to call this week asking for Emma Stanton's divorce file." And just like that, the ground shifted again. "You're not the first man to call this week asking for Emma Stanton's divorce file." I froze. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice thin, suddenly cold. The receptionist on the other end shifted awkwardly. I could hear papers being shuffled. I mean, forget I said that. It's just, sometimes we get similar names." "No," I cut in. "You said someone else called. About Emma Stanton." "My wife." A pause. A breath. "I really can't discuss other clients." Click. I hung up before I even realized I was doing it. My heart was pounding, a sharp pulse in my ears like warning bells. I stared at the phone in my hand, unsure what to believe, unsure what to think. What did that even mean? Was someone else trying to divorce her? Or was someone else under the impression that she was married to them, too? The next few hours felt like wandering through a fog. My mind ran in circles. Was it just a mistake? A misunderstanding? Was the receptionist simply confused, overwhelmed, or new? Or had Emma? No. That couldn't be. Emma wasn't that kind of person. But the truth is, I didn't know what kind of person she was anymore. And the more I thought about it, the more the cracks from the last few months turned into chasms. Emma used to tell me everything. And slowly, over time, she told me nothing. The late nights. The vague meetings. The new wardrobe she bought last spring, nicer than usual, more tailored, more intentional. The weekends she suddenly couldn't spend with me because she had deadlines. God, was it another man? Was he the reason she left? Was he the cologne on her pillow? I did something I never thought I would do. I went through her emails. I had access to her old laptop. She hadn't taken it when she left, probably forgetting she was still logged in. It felt wrong. Like betraying her privacy, even after everything. But something inside me had snapped, not in anger, but in desperation. I needed answers. Something real. Something that could help me breathe. Most of the emails were harmless. Work threads, newsletters, calendar invites. But then I found a folder. It was hidden in plain sight. Titled, Personal Archive. And inside, I found them. Emails with a man named Caleb Mercer. They started about a year ago. Short. Professional. Something about a manuscript submission. He was a writer. She was his editor. Then the tone shifted. Slowly. Like watching ink bleed through paper. Can't stop thinking about what you said yesterday. Do you ever wonder what it'd be like to run away? You see me in a way no one else ever has. The messages weren't explicit. They didn't have to be. They were intimate. Emotional. Dangerous. They told the story of two people falling in love where they shouldn't have. One line stopped me cold. "I'm going to tell Ben. I promise. I can't keep living this double life." My breath hitched. So it was an affair. Emma had been seeing someone else. Loving someone else. While lying next to me every night. It didn't matter that she'd tried to leave quietly. It didn't matter that she wrote, "This isn't your fault." She had lied. She had deceived me. She had chosen someone else. And I was just collateral. I called Lauren again. This time, I didn't ask. I demanded. "Who is Caleb Mercer?" She didn't answer right away. I could hear her exhale. Slow. Heavy. "You found out. So it's true?" "Yes." "For how long?" "I don't know," she said, and for once, I believed her. She didn't tell me everything. Just that she met someone. That it felt different. That she didn't know how to explain it to you without destroying you. "Well," I said flatly, "she did a great job of destroying me anyway." Lauren's voice broke then. "I didn't agree with what she did, Ben. I told her to come clean. I told her this wasn't the way. But she did it anyway." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry." The next few days were worse than the initial text. because now I had names. Faces. Details. Now, every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma laughing at someone else's joke. Touching someone else's hand. Lying in someone else's arms. I wasn't just grieving a marriage. I was grieving the version of myself who thought he was loved. I considered calling Caleb. I even found his number. He was listed publicly as an author on his own website. But what would I say? Congratulations, you won. Or maybe just, did you even care what you were destroying? But I didn't call. I couldn't. I knew it wouldn't bring closure. It would just make me feel small. Instead, I drove. Out of town. Nowhere in particular. I needed space. I needed sky. I ended up at a small motel off the interstate, with peeling paint and a humming vending machine that only took quarters. I stayed the night there. Didn't tell anyone. I just sat in the dark and let the grief wash over me. Not the loud kind. Not the movie kind. The kind where your chest aches and your eyes sting but no tears come. The kind where you feel like your soul is bruised. I thought about how Emma used to rest her head on my chest and say she could hear the world slow down. I wondered if she said that to Caleb now. When I came home the next day, her lawyer had sent another email. Urging me to sign. To expedite the process. Process. That's what it was to them. A transaction. A file number. A process. To me, it was a life. A future. 1,000 little promises shattered. But I opened the documents. I printed them. I read every word. And I picked up a pen. Just before I could sign, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. Ben Stanton, the voice asked. Yes. This is Greg. I'm sorry to call you like this, but I think we've both been living the same lie. My heart stopped. Who are you? I'm Emma's ex, he said. Or at least. I thought I was. But now I'm not sure I was ever anything real to her. Greg said he had something to show me. Something that would make everything I thought I knew about Emma and Caleb collapse completely. Greg's voice was steady, but there was something underneath it, a quiet exhaustion, like someone who had been carrying a weight for too long. I held the phone so tightly my knuckles ached. What do you mean, you're Emma's ex? I asked slowly. He took a breath. I was with her for 2 years. Thought she was divorced. She told me she'd been married once, but it ended. She said you were long gone. Ancient history. The room swayed around me. 2 years. I whispered. I was still married to her. Yeah, he said, his voice tight. So was I. The silence between us was a living thing. I could hear both our hearts breaking in real time. He continued, almost apologetically. I only found out when I ran into her in the city 2 weeks ago. She was with another man. Tall guy. Beard. Artsy looking. I thought maybe she'd moved on from me. But then I heard him call her M, and she flinched. That's what I used to call her. I followed them. I know how that sounds, but I had to know. They went into a building together. Same one she told me she worked at. I waited, and when she left, I called her. She didn't answer. So I did some digging. And that's how you found me? I asked. Yeah. I found your name on a joint property deed. The house. Then the lawyer's office confirmed she filed for divorce from you recently. Said I wasn't the first to ask. My head was spinning. So, you were dating her, while I was married to her. And now she's with someone else. Caleb. I guess so, he said. That's what I wanted to ask you. Is he real? I laughed. A bitter, joyless sound. Oh, he's real. He's the reason she left me. Greg exhaled. Then maybe he's the reason she left me too. It was too much. I asked Greg to meet. I needed to see his face. To know this wasn't some elaborate prank or mistake. He agreed. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our towns, two men who had never met before, but who had unknowingly shared the same woman, the same lies. Greg was nothing like I imagined. Younger than me, early 30s maybe. Soft-spoken. Looked like someone who worked in tech or marketing, dressed well, nervous smile. He slid a manila folder across the table toward me. "What's this?" I asked. "Printouts. Emails. Photos." I took screenshots before she blocked me. I opened it. There were pictures of Emma with him. Holding his hand. Smiling on a beach somewhere. One shot of them kissing in front of what looked like a ski lodge. Where was this? I asked, my voice hollow. Vermont. She told me it was a work retreat. She'd told me she was visiting her sister. I flipped through the emails. Some mirrored the ones I'd seen between her and Caleb, loving, poetic, secretive. I couldn't deny it anymore. Emma had been living a triple life. One man wasn't enough for her. Neither was honesty. "I thought she loved me," Greg said quietly. "She talked about marriage. Kids. We even looked at houses." I nodded slowly. "Same." We sat in silence, two ghosts of the same betrayal. That night, I couldn't stay in the house. Our house. Her house. The walls felt poisoned. So I checked into a hotel on the edge of town and just collapsed. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My body was empty. Like someone had scooped me out and left only a shell. What do you do when the person you loved wasn't who you thought they were? When every memory becomes a lie by association. I kept replaying moments. Emma singing in the kitchen. Emma dancing barefoot on our anniversary. Emma whispering, "I'll never leave you," in the dark. It all meant nothing now. Or worse, it meant something once, and then she killed it. And still, a small, pathetic part of me missed her. That's the worst part of betrayal. The ache doesn't vanish just because you know the truth. It lingers. It hums. It waits. A few days later, I got a letter. Not an email. A handwritten letter. From Emma. It had no return address. "Ben. I know you've spoken to Greg. Maybe even found out about Caleb. I didn't want you to hear it that way. I wanted to tell you myself, but I was a coward. The truth is, I don't know who I am anymore. I spent so many years being someone for everyone else, the perfect wife, the fixer, the cheerleader. And somewhere in there, I stopped being a person. I stopped knowing what I wanted. Or who I wanted. I didn't mean to hurt you. But I did. I hurt you, and Greg, and Caleb too. I kept thinking if I could just keep them all separate, no one would get hurt. But that's not how life works. That's not how love works. I'm sorry, Ben. For all of it. You didn't deserve this. You were good. You were steady. You were safe. And I broke something precious because I didn't know how to be honest. Please, don't look for me. Let me disappear. Let this be the end of the story. E. I read it once. Twice. Then again. It didn't fix anything. But it made one thing clear: she wasn't coming back. Not to me. Not to Greg. Probably not even to Caleb. Emma was lost. Maybe she always had been. I finally signed the divorce papers. There was no big ceremony. No tears. Just a pen, a shaking hand, and a final signature. I mailed them back and sat down in the kitchen. Alone. In silence. I looked at the blender. The stupid, insignificant blender she'd itemized in the spreadsheet. I got up, unplugged it, and dropped it in the trash. It felt ridiculous. And also, freeing. I called Greg the next day. I didn't know why, exactly. Maybe because we were both walking the same broken road, and it helped to know someone else understood. "You think she ever loved us?" I asked him. "I think she loved who we made her feel like," he said. "But not who we were." That stuck with me. Maybe Emma didn't know how to love. Maybe she loved in 1,000 directions, always chasing some version of herself she couldn't find. Or maybe she just didn't love me enough. 2 weeks later, I got a message request on social media from someone I'd never met. A woman. Her first line made my blood run cold. I think we both used to be married to the same woman. I stared at the message on my screen. I think we both used to be married to the same woman. The woman's name was Alicia Warren. Her profile was sparse, no public posts, just a small profile photo of her on a hiking trail somewhere, squinting into the sun. I clicked on it. Scrolled. Nothing suspicious. Nothing dramatic. Just normal. Normal, until that message. I waited an hour before replying. My fingers hovered over the keyboard too long. Her name was Emma Stanton. Is that who you mean? Her reply came within minutes. Yes. I was married to her for 3 years. She went by Emily Warren with me. I found out about you by accident. I think we should talk. I didn't know what to feel anymore. Shock had stopped being sharp. It had turned into something else, a constant ache, like a bruise that refuses to heal. It felt absurd, like something out of a bad TV drama. But this wasn't fiction. It was my life. My name on those divorce papers. My wedding photo now collecting dust in a box I couldn't bring myself to open. Emma had always been a mystery, complex, passionate, brilliant, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. She'd married a woman. While married to me. While seeing Greg. While writing love letters to Caleb. Who was she? Alicia and I agreed to meet at a diner halfway between our cities. Just like I'd done with Greg. Same quiet desperation. Same need for answers. Same disbelief that we'd ended up here, stitched together by someone else's web of lies. Alicia was calm. Reserved. Her hair was pinned up like she came straight from work, and her eyes carried the weight of someone who'd lived through fire and didn't flinch anymore. She sat across from me, stirred her coffee, and slid a photo across the table. Emma. Or rather, Emily. Standing barefoot on a beach. Smiling. The same smile I knew. The same eyes. She looked free. She told me she was estranged from her family, Alicia began. Said she had a rough past. She didn't talk much about it. I respected that at first. But over time, things stopped adding up. Like what? I asked. She never introduced me to anyone. Never invited me to her work events. She had multiple phones. She always traveled alone. And when she left, she didn't fight. She didn't cry. She just disappeared. Left a note on the table and vanished. I swallowed hard. She did the same to me, I said. Alicia nodded like she'd expected that. She's a chameleon, she said. She becomes what you need. Until she doesn't. That sentence echoed in my mind for days. She becomes what you need. Until she doesn't. Maybe that was her power, to mold herself so precisely to your soul that you couldn't tell where she ended and you began. And when she left, she didn't just take herself with her, she took you. I started dreaming about her. Not romantic dreams. Not nightmares either. Just moments. Her sitting on the floor of our living room with wine in hand, laughing at nothing. Her eyes in the dark. Her hand brushing against mine. She felt like a ghost that wouldn't stop haunting me. I went back to the house one afternoon to grab some things. It still smelled faintly like lavender and old wood. Her candles were still in the kitchen drawer. Her handwriting on a sticky note that said, "Buy milk," stuck to the fridge like a fossil from a past life. I stood in the doorway and looked around. The photos were gone. The shelves were half empty. The furniture had been rearranged before she left, subtle things, but just enough to make the house feel off balance. Like she'd wanted to erase her presence but couldn't resist leaving fingerprints behind. I packed a suitcase. Left the keys on the counter. And walked out. I crashed at my friend Marcus's place for a while. He was the first person outside the chaos to offer some kind of anchor. "She's a narcissist," he said bluntly one night, pouring bourbon into 2 chipped glasses. Textbook. I didn't argue. I didn't agree either. I don't even know what she is, I said. A narcissist. A pathological liar. A con artist. Or just lost. Marcus took a long sip. Does it matter? I didn't answer. The public unraveling came 3 days later. Greg had apparently posted something online, vague, poetic, but damning. It got picked up by a niche relationship blog he followed. They ran a piece on it. The headline read, "The woman who loved too many, inside a real-life web of marriage, lies, and escape." They didn't use her full name. But it wasn't hard to connect the dots. Emma, or Emily, or whoever she was, had left more than a few broken hearts behind. And now they were talking. The article went viral in certain circles. It was sensational, but weirdly respectful. There was no vengeance in it, just sadness. And warning. A few people in the comments claimed to know her. One even claimed she was their sister. I didn't comment. I didn't reach out. I just watched. It felt like watching a funeral from a distance. You don't cry. You don't rage. You just observe. Quiet. Numb. Eventually, I went back to work. I kept my head down. People asked questions, soft, hesitant ones. "Hey, man, how are things?" Or, "Haven't seen Emma around, everything okay?" I lied. Smiled. Said she was traveling. That she took a sabbatical. That she was writing a book. I didn't know why I couldn't just say the truth. That my wife had never really been my wife. That she was a ghost in a borrowed skin. Maybe I was ashamed. Or maybe I just didn't want to share her anymore. Even her betrayal felt personal. I kept Greg's number saved. Same with Alicia. We didn't talk often. But once in a while, I'd get a message. Thought of her today. Hope you're doing okay. Can't believe it's been 6 months. Do you ever stop missing the person you thought she was? No. You don't. Alicia told me something once. After one of our meetups. Something that stuck with me more than anything Emma ever said. She didn't destroy me, she said. But she burned the bridge to the woman I used to be. And now I get to build something new. That gave me comfort. Not hope. But something close to it. One morning, I received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Of Emma. Holding a baby. Smiling. And on the back, in her handwriting, just 3 words. Please forgive me. The photograph sat in my hands like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Emma, or Emily, or whoever she had become now, stood in front of a lake. Trees behind her in early bloom. She looked older. Not by years, but by something deeper, a kind of stillness I'd never seen in her eyes before. And in her arms, a baby. Maybe 6 months old. Maybe less. And on the back, in her handwriting. Please forgive me. There was no note. No date. No location. Just the image. And those 3 words that landed like a match in dry grass. I stared at the photo for a long time. I didn't know what to feel. Anger. Confusion. Grief. Or was it something else now, some twisted cocktail of all 3, diluted by time? I picked up my phone and dialed Greg. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey," he said, voice cautious. "She sent me a photo," I said. There was a beat of silence. "What kind of photo?" "Her. With a baby." His voice dropped. "Yours?" "I don't know. It doesn't say. No return address. Just a picture and a message." Another long pause. "I got one too," he said quietly. My stomach tightened. "What?" "A month ago. Same thing. Different picture. Her in a hospital bed, holding a newborn. Same handwriting. Forgive me." I didn't know what to make of it. She didn't sign it. No. I felt dizzy. Why would she send this now? After everything? "Maybe she's trying to make peace," Greg said. Or maybe she's just passing the guilt around. I showed the photo to Alicia too. She stared at it for a full minute before speaking. That's her, she whispered. God. She hasn't changed much. Except now she's a mother, I said. Alicia studied the child's face. Could be Caleb's. Could be mine. Could be no one's. I looked up sharply. What do you mean? I mean, with Emma, nothing is ever what it seems. She was right. But still, I couldn't stop looking at the baby's eyes. There was something familiar. I considered a DNA test. If she'd used my toothbrush, saved something, anything, hair, a shirt. But there was no way to prove anything now. I had no access. No rights. No contact. She had vanished into her new life. Again. I spent nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of mother she would be. Would she lie to the child like she did to us? Or would motherhood finally anchor her to something real? I couldn't decide what was worse, the idea that the baby was mine and I'd never know them, or that it wasn't, and I'd been left behind once again while she moved on into another chapter that didn't include me. I was tired of being a ghost in her story. Spring turned to summer. Then fall. I didn't hear from her again. No more photos. No letters. No phone calls. But something inside me shifted. Slowly. Quietly. I started walking every morning. Bought a new set of headphones. Let the music fill the silence where her voice used to live. I took the photo down from the fridge, folded it, and placed it in a small box with the rest of the artifacts, our wedding bands, a crumpled anniversary card, and a photo of us on a trip to Maine. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't need to see it every day either. In October, I met someone. Her name was Claire. She was a librarian at a local college. Warm, thoughtful, soft-spoken, but with a wicked sense of humor that caught me off guard. I didn't tell her about Emma right away. I couldn't. The wound still felt too raw, too shameful. But one evening, sitting on her porch with mugs of tea between us, I told her the whole story. Not for sympathy. Just so I wouldn't have to carry it alone anymore. She listened. Quietly. No judgment. When I finished, she reached out and touched my hand. Sounds like she never really knew how to love, Claire said. But you did. That still matters. And for the first time, I believed it. I wasn't trying to replace Emma. I wasn't trying to erase the past. Claire wasn't a balm or a bandage. She was a new beginning. And I learned something: healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing something better every day, even when the past tries to drag you back into its gravity. One afternoon, as I was leaving the library, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, my heart raced. Was it her? I picked up. Mr. Stanton, a woman's voice asked. Polite. Professional. Yes. This is Margot Lee. I'm calling on behalf of the state. We've received a request for paternal verification on a child registered under the name Emily Warren. Your name was listed as a possible contact. My throat dried instantly. Is she asking for a paternity test? Not directly. But the child's information is under review for legal documentation. We need confirmation to proceed. Why now? I can't disclose that. But I'll email you the request. It's your decision whether or not to respond. I sat in my car after the call, gripping the steering wheel. So it was her. So the baby might be mine. I did the test. Sent in the swabs. Waited. 2 weeks later, I got the results. 99.9% probability. I was a father. The email came the next day. From her. A single line. If you want to meet her, I won't stop you. I stood at the door of a small house in upstate New York, hand raised to knock. I hadn't seen Emma in nearly a year. But now, on the other side of that door, was my daughter. And the woman who had broken me. Was I ready? I didn't know. But I knocked anyway. The door opened slowly. And there she was. Emma. She didn't look surprised. If anything, she looked prepared, hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a simple sweater and jeans. Not the polished, curated version I once knew. Just her. She looked tired. Older. But something in her posture had changed. She didn't carry herself like someone trying to be someone. She looked like a woman who had stopped running. Or maybe just paused for a moment. "Hi," she said quietly. My throat tightened. For a second, I couldn't speak. I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or cry or hug her or turn around and leave. I managed, "Hi." A long silence followed. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. "I almost didn't." She nodded. "But you did." I looked past her, into the hallway. There were toys on the floor. A small jacket hanging on a hook. A worn couch in the background with a soft baby blanket draped over the side. "Where is she?" I asked. "Asleep," she said. "I can wake her, if you want. Or we can talk first." I swallowed hard. "Let's talk." We sat in the kitchen. Same layout as ours used to be, coffee pot, notepad on the fridge, the hum of an old vent. Everything painfully ordinary. "I wasn't going to reach out," she said. "But I couldn't keep her from you. Not when the truth came." "You lied to me for years," I said. Not accusatory. Just fact. "I did. To Greg. To Alicia. To Caleb." She flinched. "Yes." "Why?" Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. "Because I was broken," she said. "Because I didn't know how to be real with anyone, especially myself. I kept thinking if I started fresh, I could fix it. But every time I ran, I brought the same damage with me." "And now?" I asked. "Now? I'm trying to stop running." I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't the woman I had married. That Emma, beautiful, magnetic, mysterious, was long gone. This woman was bruised. Human. A mother. Someone who had destroyed lives but was trying, now, to build one honestly. Or at least I wanted to believe that. "She's mine," I said. She nodded. "Yes. Her name is Nora." My breath caught. "Nora," I repeated softly. I wasn't sure for a while. But when the test came back, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. "I want to meet her." Emma's eyes searched mine. "You deserve to." She led me into a small room, painted a pale yellow. A crib in the corner. Stuffed animals. Books. And in the crib, asleep on her back, was a little girl. My daughter. She had my nose. Emma's chin. A wild tuft of brown hair and the soft, rhythmic breathing of innocence. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt the tears on my neck. Emma stood beside me, but didn't speak. I reached into the crib and gently touched her hand. She twitched, curled her tiny fingers around mine. It felt like being struck by lightning, not pain, but power. An awakening. In that moment, everything changed. The anger. The betrayal. The ache of loss. It didn't disappear. But it softened. It fell away just enough to let something else in. Love. We talked for hours that day. About custody. Support. What a shared life for Nora might look like. Emma didn't ask for anything. No tricks. No conditions. "I just want her to have something I didn't," she said. "A father who shows up." "I will," I promised. "Not for you. For her." And I meant it. Over the next weeks, we made a plan. Weekends at my place. Visits during the week. She sent me photos daily, Nora in a swing, Nora covered in spaghetti, Nora reaching for her toes. And the first time she said duh, I cried in the car for 20 minutes. Not because I was sad. But because I'd found something real. Something Emma couldn't fake. Claire took the news with grace I didn't expect. "You need to be in her life," she said simply. "And I'm proud of you for choosing that." I told her she didn't have to stay. She told me she wasn't leaving. I'm not threatened by your past, she said. Only by your fear of healing. I kissed her. Not out of guilt. But because I realized in that moment, I had already started healing. Long before I ever got that photo. The last time I saw Emma, she handed me a small envelope. Inside were the rings. Mine. Hers. I kept them, she said. I don't know why. But now they don't belong to either of us. I nodded. What should I do with them? I asked. She thought for a moment. Bury them, she said. Somewhere no one will find them. And I did. In the woods near the house we used to share, beneath an old oak tree we once picnicked under. I placed the rings in the soil, covered them with earth, and said goodbye. Not to her. To the life I had imagined. To the man I used to be. 1 year later. Nora runs to me now when I pick her up. Daddy, she yells, arms wide. She knows who I am. Not just biologically. But emotionally. I'm her constant. Her safe place. Emma and I don't talk much. We exchange logistics. Photos. Updates. That's it. And that's enough. She's in therapy. So am I. I no longer need answers. Just forward motion. People ask sometimes if I've forgiven her. I tell them yes. Not because she earned it. But because I needed to be free. Life doesn't always give you justice. Sometimes it gives you a second chance instead. And if you're lucky, you recognize it before it passes by. I was hurt. Broken. Used. But I am not ruined. I'm a father. I'm learning to love again. And this time, I'm choosing honesty over fantasy. Depth over mystery. Healing over hiding. The past is still there, quiet, like a photograph in a drawer, but it no longer defines me. What defines me now is her tiny hand in mine, and the sound of her laughter echoing through a future I never expected, but finally choose to embrace.